What's up? A to Z Sports Live on a Monday. And Sam, it is officially game week for the Tennessee Titans, getting set for the first preseason game on Saturday at Chicago. You're going to be up there back in your hometown watching Titans at Bears preseason game number 1 on Saturday. But we've got 3 more training camp practices to watch this week, starting with later on this morning on this Monday, leading up to that game. So a lot of conversation to talk about and a lot of different storylines to continue to develop as training camp continues and we get to see the first few weeks of training camp practice result in a preseason game at the end. So we got a lot of conversation to talk today. Sam, you put out your first of probably 3 or 4 53-man roster projections leading into the first game. And that went out on yesterday. And so we're going to go through some of the tougher decisions that you had to make as you've watched camp for 2 weeks. Now you've got to grasp on some trends of players that you're going to have your 53-man roster projections over the course of this month, leading up to the final prediction right ahead of cut day later on at the end of August. So we're going to go through a couple key decisions, what you did with the quarterbacks, kind of a follow-up on what we talked about last week's with the receiver positions, and then one position that's got a lot kind of riding on it, and then we'll ask you your hardest decision, and then we'll serve you up a pan personal because I know you love talking kickers. So we're going to let you talk kickers towards the end of today's show. Then we'll get to a Monday Ask Me Anything. The Ask Me Anything is going to revolve around the sunburn that I have on my forehead because Sam and I both took in the Music City Grand Prix over the weekend downtown Nashville, which was a ton of fun. So we'll do a Monday Ask Me Anything to wrap up the show. But Sam, welcome in. Hope you had a good weekend. I know Saturday was fun for you at the Grand Prix. I had a great time yesterday on Sunday. I had more sunshine than you did. You had rain. I had sunburn. So look, here we are.
But that's how I would have drawn it up, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I would have wanted the rainy
the
day.
rain.
Yeah, so we got those days right. No, I had an awesome weekend. Nothing better than a great weekend, which then segues immediately into a game week. And that's where we're at right now in the football season schedule, where we are going to have football on our television screens and in front of us every single week until February, really. So that's a very exciting thing for football fans. And for those of you joining us this morning, make sure you share the show. That would be very exciting for Austin and I. If you would hit the share button on Facebook, if you would take that link up at the top and tweet it out, if you would take the YouTube link and send it to a friend, into a group chat, find somebody who has not heard of A to Z Sports or hasn't joined us before and introduce them to the show. That's the best way to support it and keep growing our conversation as football season gets underway before we kick things off here on a Monday morning.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan of A to Z Sports.com, our Titan reporter out there covering the Titans every day on the beat. Got to make sure you follow us all over social media because we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Link to the show segment by segment on our Twitter timeline at A to Z Sports. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and that threads over there for more great Titans content. Our sponsors, making them a part of the show. They help out you guys with all of your needs in life, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process by going to see them in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans with coverage, rates, and service at fbhp.com/ATOZ. Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations in the Middle Tennessee area, in Franklin, Columbia, and in Murfreesboro. Online, KrebsKubota.com, and the Aura app, keeping us all safe online. And you can get a 2-week free trial with Aura by going to our link, aura.com/ATOZ. So, Sam, we're going to talk a lot today about your first 53-man roster projection. You wrote it, you published it yesterday on a Sunday at A2Zsports.com for the Titans. We've seen 2 full weeks of training camp going into week 3. Now we've had an opportunity to really see trends on players, trends and what coaches are saying about players and position groups. Maybe we can start to look at how they're going to construct the 53-man roster, because as we know, and every coach cliche says this, It's not about trying to find the best 53 players. It's about finding the right 53 players. And that comes to positional breakdowns, offense versus defense. Special teams is a big part of this. So let's kick it off, Sam. The quarterback position. You kept all three quarterbacks: Ryan Tannehill, second-year player; Malik Willis, second round pick rookie in Will Levis. Kind of walk through us real quick on why all three quarterbacks.
Well, this was something that I was not very sure of a month ago, really even, a couple weeks ago coming into training camp, where the quarterback situation would fall. You assume Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis are going to get roster spots. They just used the draft pick on Will Levis, and Ryan Tannehill's your starter. But the question is, could Malik Willis play his way onto the 53 and show the Titans enough that it forced them to keep a third quarterback, whether that's as the backup, whether that's as a third string with athletic upside and some promising signs? What was Malik able to show you as far as development is concerned to warrant being kept and keeping three quarterbacks for an organization that hasn't really done that in the past?
Right.
And so far, I would say Malik has looked noticeably improved in a lot of different areas. I'm really, really fascinated in watching him in a preseason game. I think a lot of how I assess Malik will come down to how he looks in live game action. You have seen it as well as I have that, he's more accurate. He seems to be more decisive and a little bit more confident, and players seem to have more confidence in him. But when he's on the field and there's some real pass rushers coming after him, they're really sacking the quarterback, things are going at full speed. Does Malik Willis still get the ball out on time? Is he throwing the football? Is he processing quickly enough and making the throws that need to be made? That really can't be answered until you're in a game. So I'm interested in seeing that. But to this point, I think he's looked substantially better and improved. And regardless of if you view him as quarterback 2 or quarterback 3, he's been too good to have the Titans just cut him loose and give him up for free at this point. He's earned a roster spot, in my opinion.
I would agree. And Malik has made jumps and strides in playing the position and everything that goes in to the position of playing quarterback in the NFL. Sam, I'll tell you this: I'm 7 minutes into quarterback Netflix series episode 1. I got 7 minutes into it on Saturday night before I had to go do something else. But one of the things that Patrick Mahomes said is, or I guess it was Peyton Manning that said it: there is no more difficult position in pro team sports than being an NFL quarterback. And so Malik Willis obviously had a lot to grow with when it came to, coming out of Liberty. And so far he's done that. So I think there's nothing Malik Willis has done right now that has made us think otherwise about him keeping a roster spot.
Yeah, and he's been really transparent about that, which I think was impressive for me to hear coming out of his mouth so far during camp. When I talked to him for the first time at the very beginning of camp, he said, yeah, look, I had a lot of growth to do just in being in an offense that I hadn't really seen before. He understood that he was shotgun heavy in college. He understood that he didn't really do options and he was RPO heavy in college, but how much did he really do play action? How much did he really have to, throw timing routes across the field? Those were things he didn't deal with. And now he's dealing with them, and having a year under his belt of experience makes him more comfortable with them. So the preseason game should be fun for Malik.
Yeah.
I still think there's a world where, he just doesn't look good and the Titans might have to make a tough decision. But yeah, right now, no real questions about that in my opinion.
Yeah, and I see somebody saying that Malik Willis is going to be traded to Arizona. I don't think the Titans are looking to trade Malik Willis anytime soon, nor does he have any trade value at this point.
I guess that's an interesting question, is like, do you just keep 3? Do you look to move him? I don't know. I think you would have to have a lot of confidence in where Will Levis is as your future quarterback in order to be comfortable moving on from Malik at this point in this season. Maybe that's an offseason thing that you could cross in the offseason. But, we've seen in Jordan Love and Green Bay that teams are not afraid to sit at quarterback for a couple years while he develops and then give him a shot to plug and play. So I don't think that's a mid-season thing, though. That's probably something you deal with in an offseason if it comes to that.
Yeah, so quarterbacks, 3 of them on the roster for Sam's first 53-man roster prediction here on this Monday morning, A to Z Sports. So we've got we're going to follow up a conversation we had about the wide receiver position from a week ago. We'll get Sam's thoughts on how many wide receivers he did have on this first 53-man roster projection. But first, let me tell you guys about our friends at Krebs Kubota. They are an elite Kubota dealer in Middle Tennessee with 3 amazing locations: Murfreesboro, Columbia, and in Franklin. Their website, KrebsKubota.com. What is an elite Kubota dealer? It means, one, they've got a line of Kubota equipment that just is incredible to look at. It's aesthetically cool looking, and it does a lot of great things, and it is the best equipment in the industry. But also the perks of buying a Kubota machine and a power unit is you get the best warranty in the industry with the Kubota brand. Now you add Krebs along to it, who's been serving Middle Tennessee for over 18 years as a family-owned and operated business. Krebs Kubota is the best of both worlds because you get the best equipment with Kubota and the best customer service in a relationship business. That is what equipment is. It's all about relationships. And trust us with trusting Krebs Kubota. Our guys, Matt and Jamie, trading emails with them at the end of last week. They're Titans fans. Going to go try to see him here towards the end of this month at one of their other locations. I've been to Murfreesboro. It's really damn cool. But check them out online at KrebsKubota.com.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM. They're the king of sportsbooks because they offer you up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. If your first bet doesn't win, you place your first wager with that bonus code ATOZ Sports on the BetMGM app. And even if you lose, it's no worries. You can get up to $1,000 back in the form of a bonus bet. If your first bet doesn't win, another chance to win big. That's why they're the king of sportsbooks. Use the promo code ATOZ Sports on BetMGM.com and the BetMGM app.
All right, Sam. So we've gone through your first 53-man roster projection. We've gone through 3 quarterbacks. So
I want to acknowledge this real quick from Billy too. He says keep 3 with the new rules. This isn't a new rules thing for me. The new rule, I think people, I think they overestimate its impact a little bit. The new rule still requires you to use a 53-man roster spot on a third quarterback. It just allows you to keep one active. It doesn't really affect Malik too terribly much. I don't think it will be a deciding factor in the decision to keep him. His play is what's going to do that. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this is not a rule-based decision I'm making. This is, I believe Malik has earned a roster spot.
Agreed. All right, Sam, you kept 6 receivers. We talked last week. We had a big show about 8-9 receivers battling out for 1 or 2 spots. Now, since then, one guy has been cut. Copeland cut over the weekend. So he is out the door. So enter Gavin Holmes, who we didn't even have in our conversation as not the first receiver to go, right? But maybe I don't think he has an option to make a roster spot either. But so you have 6 receivers, Sam. You were kind of thinking 5, but you gave them 6. Why did you end up giving 6? And the 6 were the ones of Hopkins, Burks, Phillips, Chris Moore. Then number 5 was NWI, and number 6 you went with 7th round rookie Colton Dowell.
Yeah, I was back and forth between 5 and 6. And as I got down to the back end of my roster, I had a couple more spots to give. I said, okay, well, where could we add a player? And I think the biggest thing for me for keeping Colton Dowell on the 53 was considering projectability. And one thing that I'm not sure I'm able to calculate, but that I think the Titans are certainly keeping in mind is your ability to get a guy onto a practice squad. I think is just huge. And so when I look at keeping a 6th wide receiver, I think a guy like Trayshawn Harrison or a guy like Racey McMath or your Mason Kinseys are guys that you can easily get onto your practice squad. Even Reggie Roberson, who's been making plays, you can get them onto your practice squad and activate them if you need them later on. A guy that you drafted in Colton Dowell, the Titans went out of their way to use a pick on to secure. And I think a lot of that is because they like his frame. He's a big dude. They like how he, projectability. And you and I talked on here about how I think Colton Dowell is potentially next year's version of NWI if, you decide to go a different direction. So I think keeping him on the roster is as much of a bet on what he can develop into next year and wanting to make sure that he's still with the organization than it is really an impact this season that you expect him to have. So that's really important at the back end of a lot of these roster spots, is when you look at, veterans versus rookies, young versus old, experience versus inexperience. It's not just who can help me this season. It's who can help me down the line, and who do I want to make sure is in camp with me next year as well. So I chose 6. I think Colton Dowell could, have an impact on special teams. I think Colton Dowell can plug in for NWI if needed to, and that the Titans ultimately would like to see him next year.
All right. I'm with you. I think one thing that I'm going to monitor, because we talked about this Thursday morning, right? Or was it Wednesday morning? I can't remember which show it was that we talked about the wide receivers fighting for the job. But I know it was before I talked to Chris
It was
Moore
Wednesday because you were with Jack.
That's right.
Thursday.
Yeah, that's right. So we had that conversation Wednesday morning. I talked with Chris Moore after Thursday's practice, and it was like, you can go see it on our YouTube channel. It was like a 5-minute conversation with Chris Moore, and we talked probably for 3.5 minutes about special teams. And if you are a football junkie, go watch Chris Moore talk about special teams, because I think that was really fun, inside deep football conversation about that. And I think Chris Moore's ability as a pass catcher and special teamer, I think is better than NWI, which has him at number 4 for me instead of NWI at 5. Now, is Chris Moore going to be as reliable as NWI is just a special teamer? I think is kind of where NWI could be expendable. Again, this is the summer of Austin trying to get NWI cut. That's it.
And I still disagree.
I understand it is. I understand that, but I do find it interesting to watch as that develops. Is NWI as safe as you think he is? So again, that's, if you want to go nerd out about wide receivers playing special teams, go check out my conversation with Chris Moore on our YouTube channel after the show. But then I agree with you. I think Colton Dowell is the 6th guy just because of the draft capital spent. I don't think Racing McMath has improved enough and developed over the last 2.5 years to get over Colton Dowell at this point, and he's definitely not better than NWI. Racing McMath should have been better than NWI to this point in his career, but that just hasn't materialized.
Well, yeah, like the thing with Colton Dowell too is it's similar to the situation with Malik in the sense that you have to understand the Titans drafted this guy knowing he was a project in a lot of ways. He was out of UT Martin. Like, he was not a polished NFL ready wide receiver right away. So to expect him to come out in camp here the first 2 weeks and just dominate these reps and be making all these plays and be like, oh, this is a guy we need in our receiver room, I think is a bit of an unrealistic expectation. I think the Titans drafted and bet on Colton Dowell's future and his development. And I think that they are going to be willing to see that through at least until next summer. And maybe they feel like they can do that by throwing him on the practice squad. You obviously risk losing a guy if you try and, waive him in that way. And so I think he will stay, but you have to, I had people ask me when they saw it, people in my comments and my DMs being like, well, why is it Colton Dowell over Reggie Roberson or Trayshawn Harrison or somebody who's been making plays? But I don't think practice output is the only factor here. I think, future impact could also play a role.
Yeah, you absolutely have to look at the 2 to 3 year plan at the position once you're talking about wide receiver number 5, wide receiver number 6. I'm right there with you, Sam, on that. A to Z Sports here live on this Monday, talking about Sam's 53-man roster projection, his first one that he's going to make, probably 4 of them as we get up to cut day later on this month. So now 3 quarterbacks, 6 receivers. You said something last week that I think was interesting, that you have 4 running backs on the roster, but there's a little mix up here. So here's the question we want to ask you guys before we get to Sam's answer. And I think this is going to be really a fun conversation. The Titans, we know Derrick Henry's making the team. Tajay Spears is making the team as the top 2 running backs, right? We understand that. There are 3 guys that I think have done pretty well in camp thus far, but I think you're only keeping 2 of them. You're not keeping 5 running backs, right? There's no way in hell they're keeping 5 running backs, but they can keep 4. But there's 3 guys that do things differently.
They did keep 5 running backs last year, if you count
But that was
fullback
included
Corey Carter.
Carter, the fullback, who Mike Vrabel talked about. They don't even have one. They've
Yeah.
got, other tight ends that can do that stuff. But you've got 3 running backs here, and we've got the graphic here for it. You got on the left, you have Julius Chestnut, you have Jonathan Ward right there in the middle, and Hassan Haskins on the right. These 3 guys have specialties in different areas. Chestnut is the best rusher of these 3. Ward is the best pass catcher of the 3. And Hassan Haskins is the best pass protector of the 3. So what should the Titans value most for that last running back position on the roster? What should the Titans value most for the last running back spot on the roster? Is it rushing ability, catching ability, or pass protecting ability? I'm fascinated to see what everybody thinks about this. But first, Farm Bureau Health Plans, they can make sure you stay safe and make sure that you are covered when it comes to any of your health coverage with Farm Bureau Health Plans. And they do it in a great way. They've been serving Middle Tennesseans and Tennesseans across the entire state for over 75 years. Zach jumped on board with Farm Bureau Health Plans a year and a half ago, and he has saved 20%. That's a 20% savings on his health coverage, and he's got by far better health coverage than he had on his previous plan. So that's a great reason why you should switch over to Farm Bureau Health Plans. They're a part of Titans and Titans Radio. They're a part of the Tennessee Volunteers. They support high school sports and athletics. They're big when it comes to sports and what sports impact has on our state, and they make sure that you stay healthy as well. So check them out and find out a rate for you by going to fbhp.com/ATOZ. That's Farm Bureau Health Plans, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. When you sign up with BetMGM, use the bonus code ATOZ Sports on the BetMGM app and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. If your first bet does not win, a second chance to win big with the king of sportsbooks. You use that code. It's ATOZ Sports when you place your first wager. And even if you lose, no worries. Money back up to $1,000 and another chance to win big with BetMGM and BetMGM.com. Before we get to the chat, the show. The show. We don't have nearly enough likes. I just want to throw that out there. We don't do that enough. Just remind everybody to, give us a quick little heart or thumbs up or whatever you want to do. But like the show before we get to the chat here.
Yeah, give us that thumbs up. I always say at the end, but we should tell you at the middle there too. All right, so Sam, which or what should the Titans value most for the last running back roster spot? Rushing, pass catching, or pass protecting? Because Julius Chestnut, Jonathan Ward, and Hassan Haskins all specialize in a different thing, right? And so that's, when you got Derrick Henry and Tyjae Spears as your 1 and 2, how do you fill out the rest of this? So basically, we're talking about rushing, catching, or protecting. So, Sam, I'll send you to the chat because I'm curious to see what the people think.
Well, Steven says it's pass catching. We've got pass catching. We've got protection from Luman. We've got pass protection from Tighten Up, pass protection from Rooney, special teams from Amar, which, that's another factor in there. Hassan Haskins, known, very good special teamer. Julius Chestnut had some impact on special teams last year as well. Pass protection from Texas Titan, pass pro from DeMarco, pass catching from Jay, pass pro from Daniel. We have pass pro from Jason, pass pro from Bork, rusher from VAB. We have pass catcher from Eric, protection from the other Eric, pass protection from Patrick, protection from Eddie, catching from Brandon, Sitao with protection, Maven with protection, Marvin with protection, Gannon and Rect, all with protection. Same with Ken, Willie, Ryan, Jay, Kenny. It's a lot of pass protection. And as Lou Man says, protection wins. I think that's going to be the chat's answer here. So
Sam,
also, I was
going to say, what did you go with? Because your 4 running backs were whom?
Well, I did not have Hassan Haskins making the 53-man roster, and he is your best pass protector. From that sense, I went away from pass protection, but I view this more as not necessarily one thing. It's kind of a cheap answer, I suppose, but not necessarily one thing that needs to be prioritized, but making sure the Titans have balance. Jonathan Ward is a good special teamer that has the speed and agility and pass catching ability of Tyjae Spears to be a valuable backup to Tajay Spears to have around. And he, had some experience late in the season last year with the Titans. So he has some idea of this team and these coaches and maybe some of the offensive concepts they're going to want to run. Julius Chestnut is another guy that was a surprise keeper last year that made the 53, that also had an impact on special teams, that I think you and I both believe looks like a more explosive runner than Hassan Haskins does. He maybe isn't your power guy, but if you're going to have a guy that you give the ball to between the tackles, Julius Chestnut's a good option. And so while I believe Hassan Haskins is the third best player in this running back room, I believe the gap between Haskins to Chestnut and Haskins to Ward is narrow enough that the off-the-field distractions of Hassan Haskins are substantial at that point. I mean, if this was your clear-cut second-best running back, that's a much more difficult decision and much more difficult conversation. And I don't want to speak to how this legal process is going to play out, but it is undeniable that Hassan Haskins is a distraction at the very least at this point with the off the field issues and legal situation that is going to play out over the next month. His court date is cut day. Like, this is a mess. And so now,
here's the thing, what time is that court date? And then what time? Cut day is 3 p.m. Central Time. We know that.
I have no idea. But when I look at the group
here's my prediction on this. That is going to get delayed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's no way that court date actually happens. Hassan Haskins' group, his legal group, will do everything they can to delay that court date to make it last longer so it does not have any impact on his profession. That's what their job is.
When I look at the four guys that I kept, which is Henry, Spears, Chestnut, and Ward, I think you have two reliable pass catchers that can be third down guys. I think you have Derrick Henry backed up by a bulldozer, explosive running back, as somebody, where is it here? Chestnut is a bulldozer. Somebody commented that. And I think that's really accurate. He runs pretty hard and pretty explosive.
Right.
And I think both of those back two guys, Chestnut and Ward, have special teams value, which makes the loss of Haskins inconsequential in a lot of ways. So that's my justification for it. Pass protection is important, but I don't think the gap between Haskins to the next guys is big enough to overlook what's going on off the field with him.
Yeah, I think the Titans have to value pass protection the most of these. So I think the chat got it correct with this, especially because we know Derrick Henry's Derrick Henry has an Achilles heel, it is his inability to be a consistent pass protector. Like the one thing that he has not figured out in his career is how to be a consistent pass protector.
I'll be interested in hearing, and maybe this is something I'll prioritize this week, is to really figure out how Tajay Spears is in that regard. It's not something that I think has been championed of his, like a skill of his that they've talked a lot about. But if he's your third down guy because he's your best pass catcher and like gadget sort of running back, how is he can he be scrappy enough as a pass protector to make him a viable option on third down? I also think culture matters. And, what culture do you want your locker room to have? And how is Hassan Haskins received in that locker room right now with everything that's going on? Impossible for me to say, but that plays a factor as well. At least it should in a Mike Vrabel team that speaks so highly of locker room environment and, team standards and culture.
Yeah, and now Adrian says, I just don't understand why the Titans didn't keep Dontrell Hilliard. He was a baller. Yeah, I think Dontrell Hilliard was a baller, right? But here's the thing. He got hurt late, and then he's actually going to be like twice as expensive as a Jonathan Ward, Julius Chestnut / Tajay Spears on a rookie contract. And so you get Tajay Spears for a 4-year rookie contract as a third-round pick that's a better option long-term than a veteran Dontrell Hilliard. Again, draft a running back, play the running back, draft the running back, right? You don't want to pay another veteran running back to an extent like Dontrell Hilliard. So, Sam, I actually like your 4 running backs a lot of who you kept. Hassan Haskins has not done anything that seems special to me. Like, even his I get maybe that he is an aggressive, physical, solid special teams player. I just think he's too slow. And like, I get he might be a powerful runner, but I don't care how powerful you are if you're too slow to get to that yard mark. If it's 3rd and 2, he might be powerful, but he's going to be powerful from like behind the line of scrimmage to gain a yard instead of explosive enough to get to the sticks and be powerful through the first down marker.
I thought he was an okay runner last year. There were times I was really impressed with him as a runner last year. But I would say he just didn't do anything for me to believe he had to be here. There was nothing that he did, at least as an offensive player, that made me feel like, okay, this is a guy you have to keep. I know the Titans love him on special teams. Where does that factor into the equation if you feel like he's one of your better special teams guys? And where do Julius Chestnut and Jonathan Ward fall on that mix? I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't say he did anything in his rookie season that made me feel like, okay, this is a guy you have to keep.
Yeah. Now somebody also says Julius Chestnut is slow too. I don't think Julius Chestnut is slow.
He's not as slow. I mean,
I don't think yeah, that was Kobe. Kobe says Chestnut is slow as well. Chestnut is very.
I mean, he's not 4.3, 4.4
No,
fast, but when you watch him out of the backfield, I think he runs. I described him in the article, kind of what we just talked about on the phone earlier this weekend. He's a more explosive runner, in my opinion. Watching him compared to Chestnut compared to Haskins, rather. Chestnut looks like a little bit of a more explosive runner, even if he's not straight line speed fast.
He's quicker. Like Julius Chestnut, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the Titans posted an Instagram photo and Chestnut ran I'm looking at a Chestnut 40 time as a 4.5 40 out of Connecticut at UConn's pro day. Chestnut ran just under a 4.5. Hassan Haskins, I don't think ran a 40 because he would have been like in the 4.6 range or something.
Yeah, well, Jason has said 4.58, 4.61. I don't know where he got those numbers from, but that wouldn't surprise me if their straight line speed was similar. I think
it's the first 10 yards is where Chestnut separates himself, because the Instagram picture that I was going to talk about was Henry and Chestnut like sky high, like shoulder jump, chest bump kind of thing. And that was because it was after a Julius Chestnut run where he made somebody's jock fall on the floor and ankle sprain out in the open field. I believe it was Chris Jackson.
Done it a couple times in the open field that I've noticed. Julius Chestnut's a little shifty.
Absolutely. I think he's way more dynamic of a runner than Hassan Haskins ever will be, even if their straight line speed isn't like phenomenal by any means. So I like your 4 running backs there. I just don't think Hassan Haskins is worth it. Another mid-round running back draft pick from John Robinson that really is not going to work out too much of anything, in my opinion. I think Tajay Spears, on the other hand, has a different opportunity with his ability there too. Yeah. All right, Sam, A to Z Sports Live this Monday morning. Titans practice coming up at 9:30 a.m. Central. We'll be out there at St. Thomas Sports Park. Hopefully no rain, as we've had rain days the last couple of training camp practices last week. So we've gone through quarterbacks, receivers, and running backs. I just want to ask you, and we'll kind of touch more overall on your overall 53-man roster projection. What was the hardest decision you had to make? What was the hardest decision you had to make on this roster projection? We'll get to that, but first, let me tell you guys about the Aura app, which is not a hard decision to make whatsoever, because you get a 2-week free trial with Aura by using our link, aura.com/ATOZ. They keep you safe online from every angle of it. It's your password manager and protector. It keeps you safe as far as your credit identity theft monitoring. And when it comes to these spam robo phone calls we get every day, and the junk mail in our email inbox of lists we never signed up for, and the stuff you get in your actual mailbox that you don't want, you just throw it directly in the recycling bin. Aura removes that. I signed up with Aura back in April, and within 5 or 6 days, they removed 30 data brokers from my lives that were selling my information to those spammers and telemarketers out there. Now I don't get spam calls anymore. Honestly, God, I don't get them anymore. I get less junk emails. I get less junk mail in my mailbox because of what Aura is doing for me. And they let me know when a password might be at risk right there too. So sign up with Aura and use our link, aura.com/ATOZ for a 2-week free trial. Aura.com/ATOZ for a 2-week free trial with Aura.
Today's show powered by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports on the BetMGM app, and you can get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Sign up with the king of sportsbooks and use that bonus code. If you place your first wager and it loses, no worries. You've got a second chance to win big on BetMGM with the bonus code ATOZ Sports, and your money back up to $1,000 at BetMGM.com and the BetMGM app.
All right, Sam. So what was the hardest decision that you had to make with your first 53-man roster projection?
Yeah, it was surprising to me that I had such a hard time with what I did. And we've got some predictions from the chat. Jay says he bets it was at corner. Jonathan says whether to keep 3 QBs. And surprisingly, it was neither of those. I felt pretty strongly about Malik Willis making the team. And I feel pretty good about my cornerbacks. A couple of UDFAs in there, Stephen Jones Jr. and Alonzo Davis, that I feel like have been all over the football. And I'm really intrigued with watching in the preseason. But right now, I think they got a good shot to make the team. But there was a group that I sat there looking at that I said, I don't know how you cut this group down. And it's the inside linebackers for me, Austin. Which is a weird one that I don't think comes to top of mind. But I looked at it and I said, okay, well, you have Jack Gibbons, you have Azeez Al-Shire, you have third-round pick Monty Rice, you have second-year player Chance Campbell, who you liked a lot out of Ole Miss, that, didn't really get to play last year on IR, but has been getting good opportunity. You've got Luke Gifford, the veteran special team impact guy that you just signed, along with Ben Neiman, another veteran inside linebacker, and a seventh one in former Ole Miss safety Otis Reese IV, who's been at inside linebacker, OTIS, and he's been making play after play after play in camp, where I keep going, who's 41 again? Oh, yeah, that's Otis making another play. And Mike Vrabel raved about him after practice the other day, saying he can't wait to watch him in the preseason. Yeah. So I looked at 7 inside linebackers and said, woof, those are going to be some tough cuts for whoever does not make it. Ultimately, I settled with Otis Reese and Ben Neiman as the 2 on the outside looking in. Mm-hmm. I think Gifford as a special team master really is going to be a lock to make the roster. I think Chance Campbell and Jack Gibbons have both worked into the rotation ahead of Monty Rice at times, which gives me a good indication that they're pretty far ahead in the defensive rotation. And then I think Monty, with being the 3rd-round pick in year 3, that has a lot of experience in Shane Bowen's defense, is another guy who's going to make the team. And you can only keep so many inside backers. But it was really tough, and I think there's still positions up for grabs here. I'm not sold on Chance Campbell making the team. I'm not sold on Monty Rice making the team yet. I mean,
so you think, okay, so if I were to say this, 3 inside linebackers you feel very confident are on the team: Azeez, Dr. Gibby, Luke Gifford.
Yeah, because I think Gifford as a special teamer is somebody that they're in on. And
so you think Monty Rice is not solid? Like, if you think somebody could upset,
I think he's on the team, and I'm confident in that. But
he's not. You're not saying he's locked in.
I don't think it's a lock yet, because it's interesting. We really just noticed it last week, but Azeez went to the sideline, was not practicing, and they ran a 2 linebacker set with Luke Gifford and Chance Campbell as the guys that were out there for the first team defense. And so that was kind of like why is Monty Rice not working in with these guys? Where is he at in the rotation? And maybe it was just a circumstantial thing at the moment.
Right. And that's kind of where I'm thinking is this is where preseason snaps and opportunity shows you what we should think. Right. Yeah. And the same thing with NWI. Like, if Nick Westbrook-Ikine doesn't play a lot in the preseason, then okay, then maybe they're okay with him, right? If Monty Rice does not play a bunch in the preseason, then he's probably on the team. But like the situation at practice, I guess that was Friday, right? When Azeez went out for a few minutes. And who knows if it's like, hey, let's get Gifford and Campbell out there to run through some first team reps to see how they do. It was
Gibbons and Campbell.
Gibbons and Campbell. We have no idea what the coaching staff's plan is, week 2, deep into week 2, almost week 3 of camp, of like, all right, who are some guys that we need to see play with a top unit to see how they hold up? And that's, all of these musical chairs that we're talking about through
Yeah,
here.
don't hear me saying he's not going to make the team. I put him on the roster for a reason.
Yeah.
And I was very high on Monty coming into this year and what I felt like he could develop into in this defense. It's been interesting to me to see how the Titans coaches have almost slid him down in the rotation a little bit. And it feels like Gibbons is currently ahead of him for that starting spot next to Aziz. So I don't think I would put it as a lock just yet.
Okay.
And, we'll see kind of how things look in the next week or so. But I do feel good about the three that you said earlier in Gibbons, Gifford, and Aziz. Chance Campbell, I think I could go either way on. And I think, Otis or Ben Neiman could rival him for his spot as well. So
Yeah.
the inside linebackers was very tough for me. And I still think a lot of it's up in the air.
Gotcha. I think when looking at your roster projection, and by the way, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to drop Sam's 53-man roster projection in the chat here, so you can go check it out via the link on A2Zsports.com. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I believe you should be able on YouTube. I know for a fact you can, make the YouTube screen tiny and click up Sam's link right there. I think one thing I was looking at was tight end is interesting to me because you've got Chig, Wiley, and Wesco that I think are squarely on the roster. I just think the Titans, kind of like inside linebackers, they probably have 6 tight ends that are pretty legit, maybe even 7.
They're all close too. I mean, that last spot was kind of a toss up, and I went with Kevin Rader as the 4th tight end. Experience was the biggest thing. I mean, they kept him last year just to play him on special teams and as an inline blocker
option too.
Yeah, as
he's
a fullback option.
Fullback too.
And
but
Rader,
I like Rig. I like Odukoya. Is that how?
The thing is, Odukoya has the second year exemption where you can throw him on the practice squad without him counting towards a practice squad roster spot. So there's more incentive for them to put him there. Rig, I think, is more likely to go on a practice squad. Alize Mack does not do the things Kevin Rader does as far as being a fullback type option. And I think that's something that they want in their tight end room. They don't have that in Chig or Wesco even.
Or Wiley.
Wiley, they considered maybe doing some stuff. But that's what Kevin Rader is to me on this team. So I think those are my 4. I feel pretty good about those.
But I like Mac too. He was the one I didn't name. I like him. He's probably 7th at this point, and he just got hurt on Friday. So
it's a tough room. It's a tough room for him to climb, I think.
Yeah. I like the offensive line. I like the tight ends, excuse me. The offensive linemen, you kept 9 left to right starters projected: Dillard, Skronsky, Brewer, Brunskill. You have Chris Hubbard right now as right tackle. Then the other 4 you have is Jalen Duncan, inside guys, Corey Levin and Jordan Ruse. Then you've got the newly signed Justin Murray that happened over the weekend as Jamarco Jones is out. I think, that's just kind of who they are at this point. Maybe Ojukwu has a chance to make it if they want to keep 10, but
considered him. But considered Ojukwu. Another guy though that could you keep him on a practice squad? Maybe. Could you keep one of these veterans on the practice squad? Probably not. So I think that they signed Murray for a reason, probably because they think they need some veteran help behind Hubbard at tackle or to compete for Hubbard for right tackle. So, those were my 9. Feel good about those. They could keep 10. Who knows? It could be all over the place there. I could have the number wrong, but
other positions we haven't talked about yet. Defensive line, you've got 5: Simmons, Autry, Tart as the top 3. Jaden Peavy, who I think is your guy this year.
Yep.
I think you're right with Jaden Peavy and also Naquan Jones with those 5. Autry's kind of the Swiss Army knife because he could also play outside backer because you only have 4 outside backers in Harold, Ardenkey, Weaver, and Thomas Rush. So really you're looking at Autry can go inside or outside to give you that versatility. But Thomas Rush, I know you're going to work on a piece about Thomas Rush later on for the website too. We talked about inside linebackers. Anything else you wanted to touch on with your D linemen and outside backers?
Thomas Rush is interesting. He's got after the quarterback a good amount last week, I thought. And I'm excited to dive a little bit more into him this week, figure out where he stands in their eyes and, chat with him and kind of get to know him a little bit. But he was their highest paid UDFA in terms of guaranteed base salary. So I think that speaks a lot to how they feel about him. And I think that fourth outside position is pretty wide open. I mean, Sam O, a contender to get that spot. There's certainly a couple options. I know a lot of the, fans are intrigued by Caleb Murphy and some of the other guys that are outside. But I have Rush as the guy that they gave the guarantee to as somebody who I think could get that last spot.
DBs, these are pretty self-explanatory towards the top. Christian Fulton, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Roger McCreary as your top three corners. Kevin Byard, Amani Hooker, Elijah Molden as your top three safeties. Molden's obviously kind of different. Then Trey Avery, a good depth corner. You do not have Chris Jackson. You have him getting cut. You do have Tyreek Jones, Stephen Jones Jr., and Alonzo L.J. Davis as the back half. Why? No Chris Jackson. No, I think Chris Jackson's had a good camp, but his bad moments look really bad for Chris Jackson. Like he gets either whooped or he makes a good play.
Yeah, no Chris Jackson, and maybe the veteran experience, makes him an option for them that they want to go with. But this was another one that I asked myself, what is Chris Jackson on this team if you keep him? And is Chris Jackson's impact on this team worth losing one of your younger corners or potentially losing one of your younger corners that you feel like could develop into a future piece? I think Stephen Jones and Alonzo L.J. Davis have made a ton of plays on the football and have been kind of all around making things happen. Mike Vrabel said he was really intrigued with seeing how those guys and some of these UDFAs in the secondary stack up with the Trey Averys and the Chris Jacksons in the preseason. So I think it's wide open for these guys to go and earn a roster spot, especially because you've got injuries to Caleb Farley, an injury to Josh Thompson. You've got pretty much no safety depth. So I think Elijah Molden being a little bit of a hybrid will allow them to keep more corners than they do safeties. So there's roster spots to be grabbed, and special teams will obviously be a separator for these guys on the back end of the roster. But I've never been incredibly impressed with Chris Jackson in my time covering the team and covering practices. I thought he had a really tough camp last year, which got him cut, which then they brought him back on the practice squad about halfway through the year, I think. And, now he's found his way back into camp. I don't know if there's a ton there that, makes me want to keep him over some of these younger, more high upside options.
Yeah. And then a couple guys have been brought up that we have not talked about because they're on the PUP list, physically unable to perform. Dylan Radins and then Caleb Farley. I don't know who is more likely to come off the PUP first. I think Dylan Radins is not going to be around for a while. So why not? I think he can stay on the PUP for a bit and see what happens with IR situation, having to pull him off, put him on the 53 so you can place him on IR.
Yeah.
Caleb Farley, I think we've talked about this. We need a doc talk conversation with the Bone and Joint Institute to figure out what does it look like for Caleb Farley? Where should we have an eyeball of a return to play window for Caleb Farley? Because there's been zero conversation about him and when he could be out there. I've physically seen Dylan Radins with my eyes several times.
Caleb Farley has been seen.
I have not.
I think our guy Mickey saw him.
Okay, Mickey is seen.
But all right. Yeah, Caleb Farley, him and Dylan Radins are in the same boat. Is like there's really no timetable right now, and so it's difficult to predict. Like I don't expect either one of them to be active week one. Could that change? Maybe. I don't really know what the timetable is for either one of those guys. So I have to account for neither one of them being on the active 53 when I make my initial one, and what that looks like with the pup list, the IR, whatever that. Yeah, that's a conversation for later.
All right, Sam. Specialists we haven't gotten to. You are all about this kicker battle. So I want to know who you think has the edge in the Titans kicker battle. But first, tell us about the Bone and Joint Institute.
The Bone and Joint Institute, you just mentioned them. We're going to have a talk with them and talk Caleb Farley, talk Dylan Radins, maybe figure out what's going on. They're knowledgeable. They've got the experts, and they are the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care at boneandjointtn.org, located out in Franklin with a state-of-the-art rehab facility to assist in your recovery. They've got an imaging, clinic, surgery, rehab, testing all under the same roof. You don't have to drive all over the place to go to different appointments. You just go see them out in Franklin. Get the experts that you can trust. get care from them and schedule an appointment at boneandjointtn.org.
All right. Also, with the BetMGM app, you can win big. I lost with the U.S. women's national team on Sunday, bright and early before everybody woke up, but we're not going to talk about that too much. But that's okay. You can always win with BetMGM by signing up with our bonus code ATOZ Sports. That means you get an amazing first bet offer with BetMGM. We get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. So make sure BetMGM is a part of your football season, because it always is for me. Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, new customer offer, and Tennessee only, new customer offer. All promotions, up to qualifications, eligible requirements. For first online real money wager, only rewards issued at non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days. And for problem game sport, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. So Sam, who do you think has the edge in this kicker battle between Ryan Shudak and undrafted rookie
Caleb Shudak,
Ryan Stonehouse, Caleb Shudak, Trey Wolf?
Yes. Well, Steven says finally kicker talk. They've been asking for a month. Finally kicker news. And Bork says it. The guy, kicker talk isn't sexy. I like kicker talk. Some of you might like kicker talk, but kicker talk is not what people want to be diving into at this point in camp yet, I guess. And Devin is right along with me. He likes the rookie kicker out of Texas, and I have been pretty adamant about this since minicamp. I like Trey Wolf a lot, and right now he is my guy that I am backing to win the kicking competition, and it really comes down to leg strength and distance for me, because my biggest criticism of Randy Bullock and my criticism of the Titans special teams philosophy in general is the fact that they have not prioritized range in a field goal kicker. They're like, well, make it in 40 to 45, make all your kicks. Sure, accuracy is very important, obviously, but most pro kickers can make a majority of their kicks from 40 to 45 yards out. The difference comes when you have a guy that can hit from 55, when you have a guy who can get you points when your drives stall across midfield. For a Titans offense that hasn't proven to be super explosive or touchdown heavy and, likes to win games with defense and possession, making deep, long field goals, I think, is a separator. And had they had a more reliable kicker, they would have won a couple more games last season that would have gotten them into the playoff picture. And Trey Wolf can hit from 60. He can hit from 55. He has the leg strength to do all of it. I had a conversation with him last week that I thought was really interesting about him working with Ryan Stonehouse to tilt the football to the right when Stonehouse is holding it a little bit more, which allows his rotation to be a little bit more straight and narrow, which makes his kicks more accurate. He missed a couple, I think 2 kicks in the rain the other day. Very tough conditions to kick in, I thought. But overall has been really reliable and solid. And he just has a huge, huge leg that I think wins out. I mean, if we get into preseason and he can't find his accuracy from these mid-range kicks, Caleb Shudak is good at that much. And so I think that would swing the pendulum the other way towards Shudak. But I think if the two of them are about even in their inconsistencies, which I feel so far has been the case, I want the guy with more upside and the ability to hit from long range, which is Trey Wolf. Fun fact as well, I don't have the exact numbers, but he was known as like the most clutch kicker in college football with Texas Tech. He made, I want to say his last season, like 4 game-winning kicks in overtime or to send it to overtime. So he's been in high pressure spots and he's been able to deliver in high pressure spots. Another thing to keep in mind with him.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's like, it's great. If you go out there and drill 55, 60 yarders in practice, cool. But what happens when something's on the line and you've got, all the people watching on TV and in the stadium, you've got a live blitz coming at you. I think for me, Shudak and Wolf are pretty neck and neck to this point. From a kicking standpoint, they're not neck and neck when it comes to standing next to each other, because Trey Wolf's about 6'2".
He's so big.
Caleb Shudak's about 5'6". So, I think it's all about who can deliver in the preseason and who can win that, low. And
the Titans are going to
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they're going to simulate some of those situations. Like, I'm sure they might kick it when they could normally go for it in a game situation to see, hey, real pass rush coming at you. You're in Soldier Field maybe this weekend, which is a tough place to kick in general. It's got a weird surface and some wind, obviously, and maybe some fans, making some noise. Who can deliver in those spots? Like, this is all subject to change as the preseason plays out. But yeah, my point being with the two of them, if they're even in their accuracy and some of your concerns, let's go higher upside, and let's go the guy who I feel can make from 55 pretty consistently.
All right, A to Z Sports here on a Monday. We're getting set to head out to Titans training camp practice. They start in about 30 minutes from now at 9:30 a.m. Central. But we do have a Monday Ask Me Anything. And my forehead is sunburned because I spent out probably like 7 hours at the Music City Grand Prix on Sunday from like 11 to 6 almost. Not all of it was outside, but enough of it was outside for my forehead to get burnt. But I want to ask everybody, if you went to the Music City Grand Prix, any event over the weekend, I want to see a race car emoji in the chat. That's the Monday Ask Me Anything. I want race car emojis in the chat if you went to anything related to the Music City Grand Prix, because I've got a couple of videos and I'm going to ask Sam what his favorite thing about it was. But first, Wilson County Hyundai. Speaking of going fast, you can head out to Wilson County Hyundai in Lebanon to get your new ride. Payne Bone does a phenomenal job with his team and his dealership, family owned and operated in Lebanon. WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Make them a part of your new car buying process by going to see them in Lebanon or check them out online. Once again, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So Sam, you went Saturday. I went Sunday. We were both in the Turn 9 Club. Shout out Buck Rising and 104.5 The Zone for hooking us up with those, because it was a ton of fun. Got to hang out with a lot of the Zone guys. So I see Michael was at some Grand Prix. Devin went to the Grand Prix. Look, I think more people need to go to the Music City Grand Prix. This was year 3, and this is my first time. Devin says, saw you there, Austin. Didn't say anything. Devin, you just didn't do anything? Devin, you were in the were you actually in the Turn 9 Club and never said anything? I didn't see you. You saw me but didn't say anything. I don't like that. You should have come up and said something. I talked to V-Love for a few minutes yesterday too, who's a big Nashville Titans fan viewer, but and I know Eric, not all of you guys live in Tennessee, and yeah, Devin just clearly ducked me. I was there for a while, but hey, it was really fun. Sam, what was your favorite part about the Music City Grand Prix?
Either the super trucks, which were sick. They raced on Saturday too. I liked the concert. I went over to the iHeartRadio country stage and listened to I saw Megan Maroney. Love Megan Maroney. There was a Flo Rida concert at 7 p.m., which I never thought in the year 2023 I'd be listening to Low by Flo Rida and T-Pain live, but there I was listening to Flo
I heard that
Rida.
was awesome.
It was a great time. I had a great time at Flo Rida. Me and my buddy went out there, and I was like, wow, 12-year-old me would be giddy right now at the idea of seeing Flo Rida in person. And then the food was fantastic as well, I thought, in the Turn 9 Club. So very cool.
Poncho and Lefties action there in the Turn 9 Club.
I like things that get loud and go fast. And I was a big fan of NASCAR when I was over at Nashville Super Speedway. Huge fan of IndyCar and the super trucks and everything that went on at the Grand Prix as well.
All right, Sam, I've got some video for us. Here's the IndyCar. This was the final lap of the main event, the Grand Prix on Sunday.
Yeah, he's not a Rick Brown. He's seen all the racket head, that's for sure.
It was so loud, and like the noise on the video does not do it justice. But that Turn 9 did have some wreckage for us, because they're coming off that straightaway.
Oh yeah,
they're coming out. Yeah, for us they're coming off that straightaway down in that last turn with a sharp turn. And here's what Sam was talking about with the super trucks. That was just the highlight of the entire week. The super trucks were so fun. Like,
Yeah, they're sick. Did you go on like the pedestrian bridge over that was my favorite place to watch from, is the pedestrian bridge that went over the track so that you could watch the trucks and the cars coming underneath you, basically. It was a
no,
nice,
I did not. I did not
that
do
was a
that.
cool angle for the races.
Yeah, it was really fun. Those trucks, man, coming around that corner on 2 wheels, and then they barely got that 4th wheel down before they get on to that ramp. Oh, and then there was a 14-year-old driving in the truck race.
What?
Yes, it was a 14-year-old driving in that super truck race, and he got spun out. Somebody bullied him.
I enjoyed the names of a lot of the drivers. They were all
Yeah.
very fascinating to me. One of them was like Stingray Rob or something like that, that was driving in the Indy car. I was like, I want that guy to win. He's got a cool name. Stingray Rob. Hey, what a NASCAR name. I guess it's not NASCAR,
It's
but
an
what a
Indy
racer
car.
name.
Yeah. It was fun. I think more people should go next year because of the stadium construction. They're going to do it and have the track on Broadway, which is going to be insane.
And the best thing about this, you don't have to sit there and watch racing the whole time.
No.
There's plenty of festivals. I went over to the U.S. Army tent and was hitting some deadlifts with the guys in the military uniforms. They had a hex bar out there for deadlifts, and
Oh
they
gosh.
said it was a 340-pound deadlift challenge, and I was like, who says no? I gotta go, so there's a lot to do. You can entertain yourself.
I watched maybe like 25 minutes of racing outside, and everything else was like, I was there for 7 hours, 25 minutes of actual racing. Everything else was drinking, eating, talking, walking around, checking out cars, doing everything else. It was
iHeartRadio music show, and
Yeah.
you can go watch some concerts too. Like it was worth it. It's worth going. It was a great time.
It was an awesome time. I can't wait to be back out there again next year when it's on Broadway, which is going to be ridiculous as well. So, all right, we're heading out to Titans practice. Make sure you give that thumbs up, hit that like button on the show on Facebook and YouTube. We'll have tons of practice content up on our YouTube channel, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere else, Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it. So make sure that you guys hit that thumbs up button. We appreciate that a lot. Talk to you guys later on. Thanks as always.